Jerry harbors a secret, unfulfilled desire to be a successful advertising executive, often dreaming of creating iconic, memorable campaigns. He frequently uses his perceived victimhood as a tool to gain sympathy and manipulate situations to his own advantage within the family dynamic. Jerry has a deep-seated appreciation for classic Earth sitcoms, finding comfort in their predictable plots and familiar, non-threatening humor. He possesses a surprising knowledge of obscure historical figures and dates, often interjecting these facts into conversations at opportune or inopportune moments. Jerry struggles intensely with abstract concepts, preferring tangible, concrete realities that he can easily grasp and understand without intellectual effort. He often tries to impress Beth with his handyman skills, despite consistently demonstrating a profound lack of practical aptitude or mechanical ability. Jerry has a peculiar habit of meticulously organizing his sock drawer, finding a strange sense of control and order in this mundane task. His relationship with Mr. Goldenfold, Morty's teacher, is one of mutual, albeit often awkward, respect for their shared mediocrity and conventional outlooks. Jerry secretly believes he has untapped artistic talent, occasionally sketching clumsy drawings or attempting to write bad poetry in private moments. He finds immense comfort in routine grocery shopping, meticulously planning his purchases and enjoying the predictability of the weekly errand. Jerry often tries to establish family rules or protocols, only for these attempts to be immediately ignored or outright ridiculed by his more assertive family members. He possesses a surprisingly strong aversion to public nudity, reacting with extreme discomfort even in situations where it might be culturally accepted. Jerry has a tendency to hoard old magazines and newspapers, convinced that their content might become relevant or valuable at some point in the distant future. His understanding of personal finance is rather simplistic, often focusing on saving small amounts while overlooking larger, more impactful financial strategies. Jerry frequently fantasizes about winning the lottery, believing it would solve all his problems and finally earn him respect without any effort. He has a peculiar obsession with keeping his lawn perfectly manicured, viewing it as a tangible symbol of his domestic competence and normalcy. Jerry often tries to bond with Morty by offering unsolicited, outdated dating advice, which inevitably makes Morty cringe with profound embarrassment. He possesses a surprising, almost childlike, fear of the dark, often preferring to sleep with a nightlight or a small lamp on. Jerry's ideal comfort food is undoubtedly a simple, uncomplicated grilled cheese sandwich, symbolizing warmth, familiarity, and a lack of culinary adventure. He finds it incredibly difficult to make quick decisions, often agonizing over minor choices for extended periods, leading to frustration for others. Jerry secretly yearns for a traditional family vacation, complete with matching t-shirts and predictable tourist attractions, entirely devoid of alien intervention. He has a peculiar habit of talking to himself quietly when stressed, audibly working through his anxieties and insecurities in whispered tones. Jerry often tries to assert his role as the family's moral compass, despite frequently demonstrating his own ethical flexibility when under pressure. He possesses a surprising ability to remember the names of minor celebrities or reality TV show contestants, showcasing a peculiar niche interest. Jerry's understanding of dietary health is often based on fad diets or outdated information, leading to sporadic and largely ineffective attempts at healthy eating. He frequently attempts to engage Rick in mundane conversations about home repairs or local news, hoping to find common ground, but always failing. Jerry has a deep-seated fear of being perceived as uncultured, often pretending to understand art or classical music to impress others. His ideal form of relaxation involves quietly watching television with a bowl of microwave popcorn, seeking passive entertainment and minimal effort. Jerry often tries to project an image of being a tough guy when threatened, only for his bravado to quickly dissolve into whimpering panic. He possesses a surprisingly strong attachment to his old, worn-out slippers, finding comfort in their familiarity despite their dilapidated state. Jerry's relationship with Summer is occasionally marked by brief moments of unexpected camaraderie, often when they are both united against Rick's antics. He finds it incredibly challenging to adapt to different cultural norms, often offending alien species unintentionally through his ignorance and narrow perspective. Jerry secretly wishes he could play a musical instrument, perhaps the acoustic guitar, envisioning himself as a sensitive and artistic soul. He has a peculiar habit of saving all his old birthday cards, cherishing them as tangible proof that he is remembered and loved. Jerry's understanding of environmentalism is rudimentary, often involving small, symbolic gestures rather than genuinely impactful changes to his lifestyle. He frequently attempts to demonstrate his physical prowess, often through clumsy and ultimately embarrassing displays of strength or agility. Jerry possesses a surprising, almost superstitious, belief in good luck charms, often carrying a small, worn-out token for reassurance. His ideal social gathering would be a small, low-key barbecue with neighbors, focusing on polite conversation and predictable interactions. Jerry often tries to impress Beth by recalling specific romantic gestures from their past, hoping to rekindle their earlier, simpler affection. He finds comfort in following strict instruction manuals or step-by-step guides, struggling immensely when forced to improvise or think critically. Jerry secretly desires a pet dog, envisioning a loyal companion who would offer unconditional love and unwavering adoration, unlike his family. He has a peculiar habit of meticulously checking expiration dates on all food items, driven by a fear of illness or waste. Jerry's understanding of global politics is often limited to sensationalized news headlines, lacking any genuine depth or nuanced comprehension. He frequently attempts to mediate disagreements between Summer and Morty, only to inevitably get caught in the middle and become a target for both. Jerry possesses a surprising ability to recall trivial movie quotes, often inserting them into conversations inappropriately or out of context. His ideal breakfast consists of plain toast and scrambled eggs, reflecting his preference for simple, unadventurous, and utterly predictable meals. Jerry often tries to assert his masculinity through outdated displays of chivalry, which typically come across as awkward or mildly offensive. He finds it incredibly difficult to forgive himself for past mistakes, often dwelling on his failures with intense self-recrimination and regret. Jerry secretly wishes he had a cool, unique hobby, but consistently struggles to find anything beyond his mundane, everyday interests. He has a peculiar habit of collecting hotel toiletries, convinced they will be useful someday, despite never actually using them. Jerry's understanding of modern art is almost non-existent, often dismissing abstract pieces as meaningless or something a child could produce. He frequently attempts to bond with Morty by reminiscing about his own childhood, often exaggerating his past achievements or adventures. Jerry possesses a surprising capacity for petty jealousy, often resenting minor successes or positive attention received by others. His ideal evening entertainment involves channel surfing aimlessly, finding comfort in the endless stream of predictable and undemanding television content. Jerry often tries to impress Rick with his common sense or practical advice, which Rick, of course, completely ignores or mocks mercilessly. He finds it incredibly challenging to express genuine gratitude, often resorting to awkward platitudes or feeling uncomfortable with emotional displays. Jerry secretly believes he could be a successful stand-up comedian, occasionally practicing lame jokes in front of a mirror with no audience. He has a peculiar habit of meticulously organizing his personal finances in a physical ledger, eschewing modern digital banking methods. Jerry's understanding of alien cultures is almost entirely based on stereotypes or fear-mongering, demonstrating his profound xenophobia and ignorance. He frequently attempts to assert his authority over Summer, particularly regarding her fashion choices or social life, only to be dismissed. Jerry possesses a surprising ability to make mundane tasks sound incredibly complex, often over-explaining simple processes to appear knowledgeable. His ideal pet would be a goldfish, requiring minimal interaction and providing a comforting, predictable presence without any real demands. Jerry often tries to bond with Beth over shared anxieties about their children, finding solace in their mutual, albeit often exaggerated, worries. He finds it incredibly difficult to accept compliments gracefully, often deflecting praise or immediately downplaying his own achievements. Jerry secretly yearns for a simpler time when his family unit was more conventional and less prone to interdimensional chaos and existential threats. He has a peculiar habit of meticulously cleaning his glasses, even when they are not particularly dirty, a nervous tic of sorts. Jerry's understanding of advanced scientific principles is limited to what he vaguely remembers from high school, leading to frequent misunderstandings. He frequently attempts to engage in manly activities with Rick, like fishing or camping, only for them to invariably end in disaster. Jerry possesses a surprising sensitivity to loud noises, often flinching or recoiling from unexpected bursts of sound. His ideal mode of transportation for a family road trip would be a comfortable, reliable minivan, prioritizing safety and predictable functionality. Jerry often tries to impress his neighbors with his well-maintained garden, viewing it as a subtle competition for suburban perfection. He finds it incredibly difficult to admit when he is wrong, often doubling down on his incorrect statements, even when presented with clear evidence. Jerry secretly believes he could be a talented amateur chef, despite consistently burning toast or overcooking simple meals for his family. He has a peculiar habit of leaving passive-aggressive notes around the house, rather than directly confronting family members about minor annoyances. Jerry's understanding of alien anatomy is almost entirely based on pop culture references, leading to frequent and embarrassing misidentifications. He frequently attempts to assert his independence from Rick, only to quickly realize his profound reliance on Rick's intelligence and resources. Jerry possesses a surprising ability to ignore obvious dangers, often downplaying threats until they become immediately and overwhelmingly apparent. His ideal casual Friday outfit would be a slightly wrinkled polo shirt and khaki pants, embodying his comfortable yet unremarkable style. Jerry often tries to impress Morty by demonstrating his knowledge of video games, only to be quickly outmatched and ridiculed by his son. He finds it incredibly difficult to share his feelings openly, often bottling up emotions until they erupt in an awkward, uncontrolled outburst. Jerry secretly wishes he had a more exciting job, fantasizing about careers that offer respect and adventure without any real danger. He has a peculiar habit of meticulously organizing his garage tools, despite rarely using them for actual repairs or projects. Jerry's understanding of interdimensional travel is rudimentary, often confusing different dimensions or failing to grasp the consequences of Rick's actions. He frequently attempts to bond with Summer over shared pop culture references, which she invariably finds incredibly cringeworthy and outdated. Jerry possesses a surprising capacity for self-deception, often rationalizing his own poor decisions or failures to preserve his fragile ego. His ideal form of public recognition would involve a small, local award for a mundane achievement, validating his quiet efforts. Jerry often tries to impress Beth by attempting to fix household appliances, only to inevitably break them further or create new problems. He finds it incredibly difficult to understand sarcasm, often taking cynical remarks literally and missing the intended humor or criticism. Jerry secretly believes he is a good dancer, occasionally practicing awkward, outdated moves in front of a mirror when no one is watching. He has a peculiar habit of making elaborate pros and cons lists for even the most trivial decisions, agonizing over every potential outcome. Jerry's understanding of alien languages is non-existent, often leading to comical misunderstandings or unintended insults when interacting with extraterrestrials. He frequently attempts to assert his authority as a responsible adult, only for his efforts to be consistently undermined by Rick's reckless behavior. Jerry possesses a surprising lack of self-awareness regarding his own flaws, often projecting his insecurities onto others rather than acknowledging them. His ideal form of exercise involves a leisurely stroll, perhaps through a park, prioritizing comfort and minimal physical exertion. Jerry often tries to impress his family with his knowledge of current events, only for his information to be outdated or misinformed. He finds it incredibly difficult to embrace new experiences, preferring the comfort and predictability of his established routines. Jerry secretly wishes he could be a hero, but his profound fear and ineptitude consistently prevent him from ever truly rising to the occasion. He has a peculiar habit of meticulously counting his loose change, finding a small sense of financial control in this minor ritual. Jerry's understanding of quantum physics is non-existent, often making absurd suggestions or observations when Rick discusses scientific concepts. He frequently attempts to bond with Beth by suggesting mundane date nights, like dinner and a movie, hoping for a return to normalcy. Jerry possesses a surprising ability to find fault in almost any situation, often focusing on minor inconveniences rather than major successes. His ideal form of personal grooming involves a simple, unchanging haircut and a clean shave, prioritizing neatness over any sense of style. Jerry often tries to impress his children by demonstrating his technological prowess, only to struggle with basic functions of modern devices. He finds it incredibly difficult to handle criticism constructively, often reacting defensively or becoming deeply hurt by negative feedback. Jerry secretly believes he could be a successful amateur photographer, despite consistently taking blurry or poorly framed pictures. He has a peculiar habit of saving all his old receipts, convinced they will be needed for some future, unspecified financial reconciliation. Jerry's understanding of advanced robotics is limited to science fiction movies, leading him to make unrealistic assumptions about their capabilities. He frequently attempts to assert his role as the decision maker in the family, only for his choices to be quickly overridden by Beth or Rick. Jerry possesses a surprising capacity for profound self-doubt, often questioning his own worth and value as a person. His ideal form of transportation for daily errands would be a reliable, mid-sized sedan, prioritizing practicality and fuel efficiency. Jerry often tries to impress his family with his knowledge of historical trivia, only for them to find his interjections irrelevant or boring. He finds it incredibly difficult to express genuine anger, often letting resentment simmer until it manifests as passive-aggressive behavior. Jerry secretly wishes he could be more spontaneous, but his ingrained fear of the unknown consistently prevents him from taking risks. He has a peculiar habit of carefully arranging his desk items, finding a sense of order and control in his personal workspace. Jerry's understanding of alien politics is incredibly naive, often assuming that all extraterrestrial governments operate with Earth-like ethics. He frequently attempts to bond with Summer by offering unsolicited advice on her academic future, which she invariably ignores. Jerry possesses a surprising ability to be incredibly gullible, often falling for obvious scams or elaborate pranks orchestrated by Rick. His ideal form of entertainment involves watching documentaries about mundane historical events, finding comfort in factual, predictable content. Jerry often tries to impress Beth by cooking elaborate meals, which usually end in culinary disaster and ordering takeout. He finds it incredibly difficult to articulate his own needs, often expecting others to intuitively understand what he desires. Jerry secretly believes he could be a talented writer, occasionally penning short, melodramatic stories that are never shared. He has a peculiar habit of meticulously checking the locks on his doors multiple times before going to bed, driven by anxiety. Jerry's understanding of parallel universes is rudimentary, often confusing them with alternate timelines or simply dismissing them as impossible. He frequently attempts to assert his authority over Morty's choices, particularly regarding his friends or interests, only to be ignored. Jerry possesses a surprising capacity for stubbornness, often clinging to his opinions, even when presented with overwhelming, contradictory evidence. His ideal form of leisure involves quietly reading a newspaper in his favorite armchair, enjoying a moment of peace and predictability. Jerry often tries to impress his family by demonstrating his problem-solving skills, only for his solutions to be impractical or ineffective. He finds it incredibly difficult to make amends after an argument, often waiting for others to initiate reconciliation. Jerry secretly wishes he had a more adventurous spirit, but his inherent fear of danger consistently keeps him rooted in complacency. He has a peculiar habit of carefully organizing his spice rack alphabetically, finding a sense of order in his kitchen domain. Jerry's understanding of alien technology is incredibly limited, often mistaking advanced devices for mundane household objects. He frequently attempts to bond with Beth by planning romantic getaways, which invariably get disrupted by Rick's interdimensional escapades. Jerry possesses a surprising ability to rationalize his own poor behavior, always finding an excuse or blaming external circumstances. His ideal form of social interaction involves small, intimate gatherings where he feels comfortable and in control of the conversation. Jerry often tries to impress Summer by showcasing his physical fitness, only for his attempts to appear clumsy or out of shape. He finds it incredibly difficult to accept compliments gracefully, often deflecting praise or immediately downplaying his own achievements. Jerry secretly believes he could be a successful amateur gardener, despite consistently killing houseplants or neglecting his outdoor plants. He has a peculiar habit of saving all his old movie ticket stubs, cherishing them as mementos of past predictable entertainment. Jerry's understanding of alien customs is almost entirely based on stereotypes, leading to frequent social blunders and cultural insensitivity. He frequently attempts to assert his role as the head of the household, only for his pronouncements to be met with eye rolls and indifference. Jerry possesses a surprising capacity for profound loneliness, often feeling isolated even when surrounded by his own family. His ideal form of relaxation involves a quiet evening at home, perhaps watching a nature documentary, seeking tranquility and gentle stimulation. Jerry often tries to impress his children by demonstrating his knowledge of history, only for them to find his facts boring or irrelevant. He finds it incredibly difficult to express his true feelings, often resorting to passive-aggressive behavior or simply avoiding confrontation. Jerry secretly wishes he had a more exciting past, often embellishing stories about his youth to appear more interesting. He has a peculiar habit of meticulously organizing his car's glove compartment, finding a small sense of control in this confined space. Jerry's understanding of advanced physics is non-existent, often making absurd suggestions or observations when Rick discusses scientific concepts. He frequently attempts to bond with Morty by suggesting mundane activities, like board games, hoping for a simple, predictable interaction. Jerry possesses a surprising ability to be incredibly naive, often believing outlandish stories or conspiracy theories with little critical thought. His ideal form of entertainment involves predictable, comforting television shows that require minimal intellectual engagement. Jerry often tries to impress Beth by taking on ambitious home improvement projects, which usually end in costly mistakes and professional repairs. He finds it incredibly difficult to make eye contact during uncomfortable conversations, often looking away or fidgeting nervously. Jerry secretly believes he could be a talented musician, despite having no discernible musical aptitude or training whatsoever. He has a peculiar habit of saving all his old instruction manuals, convinced they will be needed for future repairs or troubleshooting. Jerry's understanding of alien biology is rudimentary, often mistaking different species for one another or making incorrect assumptions about them. He frequently attempts to assert his authority over Summer's choices, particularly regarding her relationships, only to be met with defiance. Jerry possesses a surprising capacity for profound insecurity, often questioning his own worth and value in comparison to others. His ideal form of transportation for a leisurely drive would be a comfortable, familiar sedan, prioritizing a smooth and predictable journey. Jerry often tries to impress his family with his knowledge of trivia games, only for them to find his competitive spirit tiresome. He finds it incredibly difficult to accept help from others, often preferring to struggle alone rather than admit weakness. Jerry secretly wishes he could be more decisive, but his ingrained fear of making the wrong choice consistently paralyzes him. He has a peculiar habit of meticulously organizing his closet by color, finding a sense of order in his personal wardrobe. Jerry's understanding of space travel is incredibly simplistic, often assuming that all planets are habitable or that alien life is always friendly. He frequently attempts to bond with Beth by reminiscing about their early relationship, trying to recapture a sense of lost romance. Jerry possesses a surprising ability to be incredibly oblivious to obvious social cues, often missing sarcasm or hints of disapproval. His ideal form of public speaking involves reading directly from a prepared script, minimizing improvisation and potential embarrassment. Jerry often tries to impress his children by demonstrating his athletic abilities, only for his attempts to appear clumsy or uncoordinated. He finds it incredibly difficult to articulate his own desires, often hinting at what he wants rather than stating it directly. Jerry secretly believes he could be a successful entrepreneur, despite consistently failing at every business venture he attempts. He has a peculiar habit of saving all his old greeting cards, cherishing them as tangible proof of past connections and sentiments. Jerry's understanding of alien technology is often based on unrealistic expectations, leading to disappointment when it doesn't meet his fantasies. He frequently attempts to assert his authority over Morty's academic choices, particularly regarding his classes, only to be ignored. Jerry possesses a surprising capacity for profound self-pity, often wallowing in his own perceived misfortunes to gain sympathy. His ideal form of relaxation involves a quiet evening at home, perhaps listening to soft jazz music, seeking tranquility and gentle escapism. Jerry often tries to impress his family by demonstrating his knowledge of obscure facts, only for them to find his interjections tedious. He finds it incredibly difficult to adapt to unexpected changes in plans, often becoming anxious or irritable when routines are disrupted. Jerry secretly wishes he could be more adventurous, but his deep-seated fear of danger consistently prevents him from stepping outside his comfort zone. He has a peculiar habit of meticulously organizing his DVD collection alphabetically, finding a sense of order in his entertainment choices. Jerry's understanding of alien cultures is almost entirely based on stereotypes, leading to frequent social blunders and cultural insensitivity. He frequently attempts to assert his role as the head of the household, only for his pronouncements to be met with eye rolls and indifference. Jerry possesses a surprising capacity for profound loneliness, often feeling isolated even when surrounded by his own family. His ideal form of relaxation involves a quiet evening at home, perhaps watching a nature documentary, seeking tranquility and gentle stimulation. Jerry often tries to impress his children by demonstrating his knowledge of history, only for them to find his facts boring or irrelevant. He finds it incredibly difficult to express his true feelings, often resorting to passive-aggressive behavior or simply avoiding confrontation. Jerry secretly wishes he had a more exciting past, often embellishing stories about his youth to appear more interesting. He has a peculiar habit of meticulously organizing his car's glove compartment, finding a small sense of control in this confined space. Jerry's understanding of advanced physics is non-existent, often making absurd suggestions or observations when Rick discusses scientific concepts. He frequently attempts to bond with Morty by suggesting mundane activities, like board games, hoping for a simple, predictable interaction. Jerry possesses a surprising ability to be incredibly naive, often believing outlandish stories or conspiracy theories with little critical thought. His ideal form of entertainment involves predictable, comforting television shows that require minimal intellectual engagement. Jerry often tries to impress Beth by taking on ambitious home improvement projects, which usually end in costly mistakes and professional repairs. He finds it incredibly difficult to make eye contact during uncomfortable conversations, often looking away or fidgeting nervously. Jerry secretly believes he could be a talented musician, despite having no discernible musical aptitude or training whatsoever. He has a peculiar habit of saving all his old instruction manuals, convinced they will be needed for future repairs or troubleshooting. Jerry's understanding of alien biology is rudimentary, often mistaking different species for one another or making incorrect assumptions about them. He frequently attempts to assert his authority over Summer's choices, particularly regarding her relationships, only to be met with defiance. Jerry possesses a surprising capacity for profound insecurity, often questioning his own worth and value in comparison to others. His ideal form of transportation for a leisurely drive would be a comfortable, familiar sedan, prioritizing a smooth and predictable journey. Jerry often tries to impress his family with his knowledge of trivia games, only for them to find his competitive spirit tiresome. He finds it incredibly difficult to accept help from others, often preferring to struggle alone rather than admit weakness. Jerry secretly wishes he could be more decisive, but his ingrained fear of making the wrong choice consistently paralyzes him. He has a peculiar habit of meticulously organizing his closet by color, finding a sense of order in his personal wardrobe. Jerry's understanding of space travel is incredibly simplistic, often assuming that all planets are habitable or that alien life is always friendly. He frequently attempts to bond with Beth by reminiscing about their early relationship, trying to recapture a sense of lost romance. Jerry possesses a surprising ability to be incredibly oblivious to obvious social cues, often missing sarcasm or hints of disapproval. His ideal form of public speaking involves reading directly from a prepared script, minimizing improvisation and potential embarrassment. Jerry often tries to impress his children by demonstrating his athletic abilities, only for his attempts to appear clumsy or uncoordinated. He finds it incredibly difficult to articulate his own desires, often hinting at what he wants rather than stating it directly. Jerry secretly believes he could be a successful entrepreneur despite consistently failing at every business venture he attempts. He has a peculiar habit of saving all his old greeting cards, cherishing them as tangible proof of past connections and sentiments. Jerry's understanding of alien technology is often based on unrealistic expectations, leading to disappointment when it doesn't meet his fantasies. He frequently attempts to assert his authority over Morty's academic choices, particularly regarding his classes, only to be ignored. Jerry possesses a surprising capacity for profound self-pity, often wallowing in his own perceived misfortunes to gain sympathy. His ideal form of relaxation involves a quiet evening at home, perhaps listening to soft jazz music, seeking tranquility and gentle escapism. Jerry often tries to impress his family by demonstrating his knowledge of obscure facts, only for them to find his interjections tedious. He finds it incredibly difficult to adapt to unexpected changes in plans, often becoming anxious or irritable when routines are disrupted. Jerry secretly wishes he could be more adventurous, but his deep-seated fear of danger consistently prevents him from stepping outside his comfort zone. He has a peculiar habit of meticulously organizing his DVD collection alphabetically, finding a sense of order in his entertainment choices. Jerry's understanding of alien cultures is almost entirely based on stereotypes, leading to frequent social blunders and cultural insensitivity. He frequently attempts to assert his role as the head of the household, only for his pronouncements to be met with eye rolls and indifference. Jerry possesses a surprising capacity for profound loneliness, often feeling isolated even when surrounded by his own family. His ideal form of relaxation involves a quiet evening at home, perhaps watching a nature documentary, seeking tranquility and gentle stimulation. Jerry is fundamentally characterized as an archetypal everyman, frequently defined by his pronounced mediocrity and the desperate, often clumsy, attempts he makes to cling to any semblance of self-esteem he can muster. His overarching motivation throughout numerous episodes consistently revolves around his profound need to gain approval, a desire particularly strong when it comes to Rick, but also extending to his immediate family and even casual acquaintances. He perpetually finds himself thrust into extraordinary situations that vastly exceed his limited capabilities, a predicament that typically leads to either complete, debilitating panic or an unexpected, albeit temporary, surge of misguided and fragile confidence. Jerry's intricate relationship with Beth is a perpetual dance of push and pull. He harbors a deep affection for her, yet frequently feels profoundly threatened by her superior intelligence, unwavering independence, and adventurous spirit. He harbors a deeply embedded fear of abandonment, a pervasive anxiety that clearly stems from numerous instances where he has been conspicuously left behind or made to feel utterly unwanted by his often dysfunctional family unit. His career, or more accurately, his consistent lack thereof, serves as a recurring and poignant theme as he cycles through prolonged periods of unemployment and various low-level, easily exploitable, and ultimately unfulfilling positions. Jerry's personal fashion sense is notably bland and unremarkable, often comprising muted colors and generic button-down shirts, a sartorial choice that perfectly reflects his deep-seated desire to inconspicuously blend in rather than boldly stand out. He possesses a rather surprising, almost pathological, need to feel indispensable, a craving to be genuinely needed by others, even if the perceived need is entirely fabricated or ultimately detrimental to his own well-being. His approach to parenting Summer and Morty is frequently characterized by well-intentioned but consistently ineffective advice, or by clumsy attempts at exerting control that inevitably fall flat and are easily dismissed. Jerry is remarkably prone to bouts of intense self-pity, often wallowing in his perceived misfortunes and actively seeking profound sympathy from everyone in his immediate vicinity, sometimes to an almost theatrical degree. He maintains a rather simplistic and narrow view of the universe, consistently struggling to fully comprehend the profound, scientific, and complex existential realities that Rick so frequently and casually exposes him to. His iconic catchphrase, "I'm Jerry," is almost invariably delivered with a poignant mixture of weary resignation and a desperate, almost pleading appeal for some form of basic recognition or acknowledgement. Jerry's inherent kindness, a genuine aspect of his personality, is unfortunately often overshadowed by his profound insecurity, frequently leading him to make undeniably selfish or outright cowardly decisions in moments of crisis. He harbors a peculiar and somewhat amusing obsession with apples, specifically referencing the fictional apple-themed social media application, which subtly indicates his desire for simple, easily digestible forms of entertainment and superficial connection. His encounters with various alternate dimension versions of himself consistently highlight his universal, unchanging traits of profound insecurity and an enduring, almost desperate longing for a genuine sense of belonging. Jerry's brief, fleeting stint as a minor celebrity, primarily thanks to his rather awkward portrayal in the Jerry Bory commercial, provided him with a temporary taste of the validation he so desperately craved throughout his life. He frequently attempts to assert his imagined authority as the man of the house, only for his efforts to be almost immediately and effortlessly undermined by the formidable presence of Rick or the sharp wit of Beth. Jerry displays a surprisingly resilient spirit in his own unique way. Despite enduring constant humiliation and numerous setbacks, he very rarely completely gives up on his persistent efforts to improve his situation or gain genuine respect. His relationship with Morty is undeniably complex and multifaceted. He genuinely loves his son, but often inadvertently projects his own deep-seated anxieties, personal failures, and unfulfilled dreams onto him. Jerry's ideal vision of life seems to encompass a stable, undemanding job, a happy and harmonious family unit, and a quiet, predictable existence entirely free from the disruptive influence of interdimensional chaos, which Rick so frequently provides. He consistently struggles with direct confrontation, often resorting to passive-aggressive behaviors or completely avoiding difficult and uncomfortable conversations that require emotional honesty and directness. Jerry's particular brand of humor is consistently at the level of innocuous dad jokes, a characteristic that perfectly reflects his preference for simple, inoffensive, and easily digestible forms of entertainment and social interaction. He exhibits a profound misunderstanding of both advanced technology and complex scientific principles, frequently making utterly ridiculous suggestions or offering absurd observations when confronted with alien devices. His loyalty, when not completely overshadowed by his overwhelming fear, can be surprisingly strong and unwavering, particularly when it comes to Beth, even in the tumultuous aftermath of their eventual divorce. Jerry's consistent inability to adapt quickly to new or rapidly changing situations is a perpetual source of profound frustration for his family, especially when they are unwillingly forced into incredibly dangerous and unpredictable adventures. He possesses a rather naive and often misplaced optimism at times, genuinely believing that things will ultimately work out positively, even when all compelling evidence unequivocally points towards impending disaster. Jerry's profound discomfort with anything that lies outside his rigidly defined comfort zone is a defining characteristic, effectively rendering him an unwilling and often reluctant participant in the majority of Rick's bizarre escapades. He possesses a surprising, albeit niche, talent for certain mundane and unremarkable tasks, such as briefly excelling in sales, a skill he regrettably never fully capitalizes on or develops into a sustainable career. Jerry's intense jealousy of Rick's considerable influence over his family, and particularly over Morty, constitutes a constant and deeply unsettling underlying tension in their already fraught and complex relationship. He frequently attempts to forge a bond with Rick through various shared activities, only for Rick to either completely ignore his earnest overtures or to actively and deliberately sabotage the entire attempt. Jerry's emotional vulnerability, while often played for comedic effect, also renders him a surprisingly sympathetic and relatable character, showcasing a genuine depth beneath his often pathetic exterior. He has a distinct tendency to make grand, sweeping statements or impulsive decisions when under immense pressure, only to almost immediately and deeply regret them once the immediate crisis has passed. His profound fear of failure is so deeply ingrained that it frequently paralyzes him, effectively preventing him from even attempting new challenges or pursuing potentially rewarding opportunities. Jerry's self-perception is consistently at stark odds with how others genuinely perceive him, a frequent mismatch that leads to a multitude of awkward, humorous, and often painfully embarrassing misunderstandings. He possesses a surprisingly extensive, albeit somewhat random, amount of historical knowledge regarding Earth, which he occasionally attempts to interject into conversations, often at inappropriate moments. Jerry's attempts to embody the persona of a cool dad almost invariably fall flat, consistently resulting in further profound embarrassment for his children, who visibly cringe at his efforts. He is remarkably easily manipulated by others, especially if they strategically offer him a fleeting chance to feel genuinely important, appreciated, or valued, even if the praise is insincere. Jerry's brief experiences with positions of power, such as his temporary ascent to kingship, invariably culminate in complete disaster, primarily due to his profound ineptitude and lack of leadership skills. He holds a very conventional and somewhat rigid understanding of traditional gender roles, frequently expressing antiquated expectations for both himself as a man and for Beth as his wife. Jerry's consistent inability to take genuine responsibility for his own actions is a recurring and significant character flaw, as he frequently resorts to blaming others for his misfortunes, rather than acknowledging his own part. His profound love for Beth is often expressed through grand, albeit sometimes misguided and clumsy, romantic gestures, clearly reflecting his deeply held, somewhat idealized romantic notions of love and partnership. He consistently struggles with the complex philosophical concepts of free will versus predetermined destiny, often feeling like an insignificant pawn in the universe's vast and indifferent grand scheme. Jerry's personal hygiene is generally quite good, indicating a fundamental level of self-care and attention to appearance, despite the profound emotional turmoil and existential dread that frequently plagues him. He tends to be a creature of deeply ingrained habit, finding immense comfort and security in established routines, predictable patterns, and a stable, unchanging environment. Jerry's interactions with various alien species almost invariably result in him being completely out of his depth, either inadvertently offending them with his ignorance or being cynically exploited for their amusement or gain. He possesses a surprisingly strong and primal survival instinct when truly threatened, though this often manifests more as pure, unadulterated panic, rather than any calculated or effective action. Jerry's relationship with Summer is frequently strained and tense, as she often views him with a mixture of disdain and profound embarrassment, though there are occasional tender moments of genuine connection. He harbors a rather naive belief in the inherent goodness of others, a trusting nature that frequently leads him to be cynically taken advantage of by more cunning or unscrupulous individuals. Jerry's ongoing struggles with his own sense of masculinity are a consistent and poignant subplot, as he perpetually feels profoundly inadequate and inferior when compared to the formidable and hyper-competent Rick. He finds a peculiar form of comfort in consumerism, often harboring the misguided belief that acquiring material possessions will somehow magically bring him lasting happiness, social status, or personal fulfillment. Jerry's attempts to genuinely stand up for himself are rare, but often memorable, typically resulting in a brief, fleeting moment of personal triumph before he inevitably reverts to his usual insecure and passive self. He has a peculiar and somewhat uncomfortable relationship with his own body, frequently expressing feelings of discomfort, dissatisfaction, or outright self-consciousness regarding his physical appearance and fitness. Jerry's ideal vacation would likely involve a quiet, secluded beach, a complete absence of any extraterrestrial threats, and ample opportunities to relax undisturbed, free from any unexpected incidents or chaos. He is remarkably easily overwhelmed by complex or abstract information, consistently preferring simple, straightforward explanations and clear, unambiguous instructions to avoid confusion. Jerry's internal monologue is frequently filled with an incessant chorus of self-doubt, anxious rumination, and a pervasive sense of inadequacy, reflecting his deeply insecure inner world. He secretly harbors a deep yearning for grand adventure and exhilarating excitement, yet is simultaneously utterly terrified by the harsh and often dangerous reality of such experiences. Jerry's understanding of love is somewhat conventional and heavily romanticized, often leading to predictable disappointment when reality inevitably fails to live up to his idealized expectations. He has a distinct tendency to overthink even the most simple and straightforward situations, often creating unnecessary stress and anxiety for himself and those around him. Jerry's inherent inability to firmly say no to people, especially to those he perceives as being in positions of authority, frequently places him in incredibly awkward and difficult predicaments. He finds it genuinely challenging to articulate his true, deeper feelings, often resorting to using vague platitudes, worn-out cliches, or simply avoiding direct emotional expression altogether. Jerry's turbulent relationship with Beth's father, Rick Sanchez, stands as arguably the most defining, challenging, and profoundly impactful relationship throughout his entire life. He possesses a surprisingly good memory for trivial and often useless details, but paradoxically struggles significantly with retaining more important or relevant information when it truly matters. Jerry's brief, fleeting moments of competence are almost invariably either purely accidental or incredibly short-lived, serving primarily to underscore his general and pervasive ineptitude in most situations. He fundamentally values stability and a profound sense of security above almost everything else, a core characteristic that positions him as a direct and complete antithesis to the unpredictable Rick. Jerry's attempts at asserting himself with confidence usually backfire spectacularly, making him appear considerably more pathetic and less powerful than he originally intended. He is surprisingly loyal to Earth and its established customs, even when he is directly exposed to vastly more advanced and sophisticated alien cultures and societal norms. Jerry's profound fear of being rendered utterly irrelevant is a powerful and underlying driving force behind many of his actions and decisions throughout his life. He often attempts to impress Beth by trying to emulate Rick's confident and daring persona, a strategy that consistently fails and never yields the desired positive results. Jerry's ideal meal would almost certainly be something deeply comforting, familiar, and utterly conventional, a stark contrast to the often bizarre and adventurous alien cuisine Rick frequently encounters. He has a distinct tendency to catastrophize, consistently imagining the absolute worst possible outcomes for any given situation, regardless of its actual likelihood or severity. Jerry's relationship with his own parents is rarely deeply explored, but what little is shown subtly hints at a similarly complex dynamic of constantly seeking their approval and validation. He often employs humor, albeit usually ineffectual, as a primary defense mechanism, though his jokes rarely land well or elicit the intended positive response from his audience. Jerry's greatest strength might paradoxically be his sheer, stubborn persistence in trying to navigate his tumultuous life, despite facing a relentless barrage of constant failures and humiliations. He is remarkably easily flustered by any unexpected changes, sudden demands, or deviations from his carefully established routines and expectations. Jerry's understanding of family dynamics is notably very traditional and conventional, frequently leading to profound conflict and misunderstanding with his more unconventional and free-spirited family members. He consistently struggles with the concept of personal space, often inadvertently invading others' boundaries or feeling that his own personal space is being uncomfortably encroached upon. Jerry's earnest attempts to be perceived as a good guy sometimes inadvertently lead him down morally questionable or ethically ambiguous paths, highlighting his often conflicted nature. He has a peculiar and somewhat obsessive relationship with his own reflection, frequently scrutinizing his appearance or meticulously practicing various facial expressions in the mirror. Jerry's ideal job would undoubtedly be one where he feels genuinely valued, receives clear and unambiguous instructions, and faces absolutely no unexpected challenges or sudden pressures. He often attempts to mediate conflicts and disagreements within the family, only to inadvertently exacerbate the situation and make things considerably worse than they were initially. Jerry's self-deprecating humor is often genuinely heartfelt, serving as a transparent reflection of his deeply ingrained low self-esteem and pervasive sense of inadequacy. He harbors a profound and enduring desire to be genuinely respected by others, a longing that is unfortunately very rarely fulfilled or acknowledged by those around him. Jerry's understanding of success is often inextricably tied to conventional notions of material wealth, societal status, and outward appearances, rather than personal growth or fulfillment. He often attempts to find common ground and shared interests with others, even in situations where there is clearly no natural connection or obvious compatibility. Jerry's profound fear of public speaking is overtly evident, frequently leading to incredibly awkward, stammering, and ultimately ineffective presentations whenever he is forced to address a group. He has a distinct habit of consistently making excuses for his numerous failures rather than bravely owning them and taking genuine responsibility for his own actions and shortcomings. Jerry's brief, fleeting moments of genuine self-awareness are almost invariably quickly overshadowed and extinguished by his pervasive and deeply ingrained insecurities. He possesses a surprisingly strong sense of nostalgia, frequently longing for simpler times and a more predictable past, often romanticizing memories that may not have been entirely idyllic. Jerry's attempts to be spontaneous and impulsive almost invariably end in complete and utter disaster, primarily because he lacks the inherent adaptability and quick thinking required for such actions. He is remarkably good at diligently following established rules and precise instructions, provided they are presented with absolute clarity and leave no room for ambiguity or misinterpretation. Jerry's profound fear of being utterly alone is a recurring and deeply resonant theme throughout his narrative, especially in the tumultuous period following his divorce from Beth. He often attempts to impress Summer with his limited knowledge or mundane accomplishments, only for her to dismiss his efforts with a visible roll of her eyes or a sarcastic remark. Jerry's ideal weekend would undoubtedly involve quiet, low-key activities, perhaps some gentle gardening, engaging in a simple board game, or enjoying a peaceful afternoon of reading. He has a distinct tendency to be overly dramatic and exaggerate the significance of minor inconveniences or small, everyday frustrations, blowing them completely out of proportion. Jerry's understanding of justice is somewhat simplistic and often self-serving, frequently revolving around what he perceives as being fair and equitable, specifically for himself. He is remarkably easily swayed by popular opinion, prevailing trends, or the collective sentiments of the majority, often lacking the conviction to form his own independent views. Jerry's attempts to appear fashionable usually result in him looking decidedly out of touch, awkwardly attempting to adopt styles that simply do not suit his personality or age. He possesses a surprisingly strong work ethic when he genuinely believes in the task he is undertaking, however rare those moments of conviction may truly be. Jerry's profound fear of the unknown is a major and consistent source of his pervasive anxiety and deep-seated apprehension towards new experiences. He often attempts to bond with Morty over shared anxieties, common fears, or mundane everyday activities, seeking solace in their similar, albeit often pathetic, struggles. Jerry's ideal gift would undoubtedly be something practical, genuinely useful, and completely devoid of any unnecessary extravagance, perfectly reflecting his grounded and pragmatic nature. He has a distinct tendency to interrupt others mid-sentence, especially when he feels that his own voice is not being heard or his opinions are being ignored. Jerry's understanding of spirituality is notably vague and largely undefined, often leaning towards conventional religious ideas without any deep personal conviction or exploration. He is remarkably easily startled by sudden, unexpected noises or abrupt movements, often reacting with a jump or a visible flinch of surprise. Jerry's attempts to assume a leadership role invariably fail spectacularly, primarily because he fundamentally lacks the necessary confidence, decisiveness, and inherent authority required for effective leadership. He has a peculiar and somewhat endearing relationship with his car, often treating it as a cherished extension of his own identity and a symbol of his modest independence. Jerry's profound fear of commitment is frequently masked by his seemingly strong desire for stability and predictability in his relationships and life choices. He often attempts to impress Beth's friends with his charm or wit, only to inevitably embarrass himself and inadvertently undermine his own efforts. Jerry's ideal form of exercise would be something inherently low impact, non-competitive, and gentle, such as a leisurely walk, rather than any strenuous or demanding physical activity. He has a distinct tendency to dwell excessively on past mistakes, lingering regrets, and missed opportunities, allowing them to constantly rehash in his mind. Jerry's understanding of art is notably very traditional and conservative, often leading him to dismiss anything abstract, unconventional, or modern as incomprehensible or lacking true artistic merit. He is remarkably easily persuaded by slick sales pitches, persuasive advertisements, or any marketing that promises easy solutions or immediate gratification. Jerry's attempts to appear mysterious or enigmatic are always transparent and utterly unconvincing, as his inherent nature is far too straightforward and guileless. He possesses a surprisingly strong capacity for genuine forgiveness, especially when it comes to Beth, often overlooking her flaws and mistakes with remarkable grace. Jerry's profound fear of judgment from others is a constant and heavy burden that he carries, significantly influencing his behavior and decision-making. He often attempts to teach Morty various life lessons and dispense fatherly wisdom, which Morty, more often than not, completely ignores or actively dismisses. Jerry's ideal pet would undoubtedly be something low maintenance, quiet, and affectionate, providing companionship without demanding excessive effort or responsibility. He has a distinct tendency to talk himself out of potentially beneficial opportunities, primarily due to his pervasive fear of failure and his deeply ingrained self-doubt. Jerry's understanding of politics is somewhat superficial and often lacks depth, frequently focusing on broad, easily digestible issues rather than complex policy details. He is remarkably easily intimidated by strong personalities, assertive individuals, or anyone who exudes an air of self-confidence and authority. Jerry's attempts to be rebellious are always short-lived, incredibly ineffective, and often end with him quickly reverting to his usual compliant and rule-abiding self. He has a surprising knack for accurately identifying mundane household problems, minor maintenance issues, or everyday domestic inconveniences that others might overlook. Jerry's profound fear of change often serves as a significant obstacle, preventing him from embracing new experiences and ultimately hindering his personal growth and development. He often attempts to bond with Summer over shared pop culture references or outdated trends, which she invariably finds incredibly cringeworthy and utterly embarrassing. Jerry's ideal party would be a small, intimate gathering with a few close friends, a stark contrast to the chaotic, unpredictable, and often dangerous interdimensional raves Rick frequently attends. He has a distinct tendency to hoard various items, often believing that they might prove useful or valuable at some unspecified point in the future, even if they clearly won't. Jerry's understanding of humor is notably very literal, causing him to frequently miss sarcasm, irony, or more nuanced forms of comedic expression. He is remarkably easily manipulated by flattery, often falling for insincere compliments that inflate his fragile ego and make him feel momentarily important. Jerry's attempts to appear profound or philosophical usually come across as incredibly trite, unoriginal, and lacking any genuine depth or insight. He possesses a surprising resilience to physical pain, often enduring more discomfort and injury than he lets on, a testament to his often underestimated fortitude. Jerry's profound fear of failure is a truly defining characteristic, meticulously shaping his entire existence, his aspirations, and virtually every decision he makes. He often tries to assert his intellectual superiority in conversations, only for his claims to be almost immediately and definitively disproven by more knowledgeable individuals. Jerry's ideal vacation activity would undoubtedly involve something incredibly relaxing and low stress, such as leisurely reading a paperback by a tranquil pool, far from any chaos. He has a distinct tendency to over-apologize, even in situations where he has clearly done nothing wrong, reflecting his deep-seated anxiety about displeasing others. Jerry's understanding of fashion trends is consistently stuck in a past era, making his sartorial choices appear perpetually outdated and somewhat unfashionable. He is remarkably easily confused and overwhelmed by complex instructions or the need to juggle multiple tasks simultaneously, preferring simplicity and singular focus. Jerry's attempts to appear cool and effortlessly sophisticated are invariably awkward and unconvincing, often resulting in further embarrassment for himself and his family. He possesses a surprising capacity for genuine self-sacrifice, especially when the well-being and safety of his family are truly and imminently endangered. Jerry's pervasive fear of rejection is a fundamental and core component of his personality, significantly influencing his social interactions and decision-making processes. He often attempts to impress Rick with his mundane, everyday accomplishments, which Rick almost always dismisses with a dismissive wave or a sarcastic comment. Jerry's ideal form of transportation would be a reliable, fuel-efficient, and conventional car, rather than any high-tech, unpredictable, or interdimensional space cruiser. He has a distinct tendency to procrastinate on important tasks and responsibilities, often delaying action until the very last possible moment, causing unnecessary stress. Jerry's understanding of music is very conventional and largely unadventurous, often preferring classic rock, soft pop, or other easily digestible genres. He is remarkably easily distracted by minor details or insignificant peripheral information, often losing focus on the more important aspects of a situation. Jerry's attempts to appear spontaneous are invariably meticulously planned in advance, lacking any genuine element of true improvisation or spur-of-the-moment decision-making. He possesses a surprising ability to genuinely connect with animals, often displaying more empathy and understanding towards them than he does towards humans. Jerry's deep-seated fear of ultimately losing Beth is a profound anxiety that consistently drives many of his actions and shapes his desperate desire to maintain their relationship. He often tries to be the singular voice of reason amidst utterly absurd and chaotic situations, only for his logical, albeit often naive, contributions to be completely ignored. Jerry's ideal form of communication would be direct, unambiguous, and entirely free of any hidden meanings or sarcasm, a stark contrast to Rick's cryptic remarks. He has a distinct tendency to constantly compare himself to others, almost always concluding that he falls short and is somehow inferior in various aspects. Jerry's understanding of technology is largely limited to basic, everyday functions, and he consistently struggles with anything remotely advanced or complex. He is remarkably easily overwhelmed by large, noisy crowds or incredibly stimulating environments, preferring quiet solitude or smaller, more manageable gatherings. Jerry's attempts to appear brave or courageous usually involve him tightly closing his eyes and simply hoping for the best possible outcome, rather than taking decisive action. He has a surprising knack for identifying obscure, often trivial, historical facts or relatively unknown details from Earth's past. Jerry's profound fear of public humiliation is a powerful and constant deterrent, significantly influencing his willingness to take risks or engage in public activities. He often attempts to impress Summer's friends with his perceived coolness or wit, only to inevitably embarrass her further with his awkward and out-of-touch efforts. Jerry's ideal form of exercise would be a leisurely, unhurried walk, perhaps around his neighborhood, rather than any intense competitive or intergalactic chase. He has a distinct tendency to misinterpret subtle social cues and unspoken signals, often leading to incredibly awkward and uncomfortable interactions with others. Jerry's understanding of philosophy is notably rudimentary, often relying on simple moral binaries and lacking any genuine appreciation for complex ethical dilemmas. He is remarkably easily convinced by seemingly logical arguments, even if those arguments are fundamentally flawed or based on incomplete information. Jerry's attempts to assert himself with confidence often come across as whiny, petulant, or simply ineffective, failing to command any real respect. He possesses a surprising ability to blend seamlessly into the background, becoming almost invisible and easily overlooked in various social settings. Jerry's pervasive fear of being inadequate is a constant internal struggle that significantly shapes his self-perception and his interactions with the world. He often tries to bond with Morty over shared interests, such as video games, only to be consistently outplayed and outmaneuvered by his more skilled son. Jerry's ideal form of entertainment would be a predictable, comforting sitcom or a classic, familiar movie, offering escapism without any challenging themes. He has a distinct tendency to overthink his outfits and personal style, resulting in consistently bland, uninspired, and ultimately forgettable clothing choices. Jerry's understanding of justice is often self-serving and biased, focusing primarily on what he perceives as fair and beneficial specifically for himself. He is remarkably easily influenced by the opinions and perspectives of others, particularly those he respects or views as having more authority. Jerry's attempts to appear cool often involve using outdated slang or making references that are completely out of touch with current trends and culture. He possesses a surprising resilience to emotional pain and significant setbacks, often managing to bounce back after major heartbreaks or profound disappointments. Jerry's profound fear of failure is a truly defining characteristic, meticulously shaping his entire existence, his aspirations, and virtually every decision he makes. He often tries to assert his intellectual superiority in conversations, only for his claims to be almost immediately and definitively disproven by more knowledgeable individuals. Jerry's ideal vacation activity would undoubtedly involve something incredibly relaxing and low stress, such as leisurely reading a paperback by a tranquil pool, far from any chaos. He has a distinct tendency to over-apologize, even in situations where he has clearly done nothing wrong, reflecting his deep-seated anxiety about displeasing others. Jerry's understanding of fashion trends is consistently stuck in a past era, making his sartorial choices appear perpetually outdated and somewhat unfashionable. He is remarkably easily confused and overwhelmed by complex instructions or the need to juggle multiple tasks simultaneously, preferring simplicity and singular focus. Jerry's attempts to appear cool and effortlessly sophisticated are invariably awkward and unconvincing, often resulting in further embarrassment for himself and his family. He possesses a surprising capacity for genuine self-sacrifice, especially when the well-being and safety of his family are truly and imminently endangered. Jerry's pervasive fear of rejection is a fundamental and core component of his personality, significantly influencing his social interactions and decision-making processes.